You've probably seen in the news lately that there's been a base rate reduction. This is quite big news in the property world because obviously it means you can take out mortgages at lower rates. A lot of people are happy about this, and overall it's probably positive news in terms of lending. My reaction to this sort of thing is that the base rate is one factor. There are a number of things at play when it comes to getting the best kind of mortgage deal. I was at a property event and the broker did a speech. He showed the base rate trend over the last year and it did look promising. The way I would approach the situation, if you have an upcoming remortgage, is probably not spend too much time on researching the base rate and whether it might go up again in future or what might happen. All these factors are out of your control. You can only go with what the market dictates. For example, I've had a number of cases where even when the rate was low, things didn't work in my favour. The first remortgage I did on a property, the property was valued at, I think, around £180,000 to £200,000 at the time. It was unencumbered and I put a mortgage on it, but then the valuer valued it at £120,000. This was around 2012, when the economy was in a much better state than it is now. I discussed this with my broker. He said I could appeal, but it would probably be pointless. He would have supported me in my decision, but it's an example of a time when the interest rates were lower than they are now, and I could not get the lending that I wanted. So because of the down valuation, I was able to borrow less. And lenders do this for their own security. Obviously, the less they lend, the less risk they're taking. In 2019, I bought a flat. I bought it cash because it was quite run down. It was just below £80,000 and then I fully refurbed it. The refurb was about £16,000. It's a very good price. I did it with a contractor who I've known for some time, who I still use to this day. Is very reliable. So the property was bought in about August 2019. The refurb was done in the following months, and then the valuation took place in February 2020. And as we all know, that's when COVID happened. From my general understanding, in times like this, lenders are less likely to lend higher amounts, so if they want to lend less, then they'll downvalue your property. So the end value was supposed to be around £120,000 or £130,000, but they valued it at £110,000. Again, this was in a time when the interest rates were much lower than they are now, which goes to show the base rate is only one factor. I didn't do extensive due diligence on the property before I bought it. These days I probably would have done it differently. The other issue was that the property was ex-council and it was quite difficult to find a lender via the broker I was using at the time, but because they were quite experienced, they did manage to find a lender, and I did get it mortgaged, but the end value was not what I wanted it to be. But again, it was due to economic factors and things that were out of my control. A few months later, in around March and April 2020, I had other remortgages coming up. The properties had appreciated quite a lot. As my broker was doing the work, it seemed I was able to pull out quite a bit from another property, but then there seemed to be a long pause in hearing back from the lender, and then the lender said they'd looked at the AST and it looked like it may be an HMO. It was a very odd reason. They knew it wasn't an HMO. Their valuer had been there. There were no locks on the doors or things set up at the time to make it an HMO. They had no reason to believe it was an HMO. And then after this, they did not let me remortgage and pull out funds from the property. Again, this was most likely due to COVID and the market not being great at the time, even though interest rates were lower at the time. The other remortgage I had upcoming at that time, I'd compared nearby sold values for recent properties, and they were much higher than the lender quoted them to be. Again, they seemed to downvalue the property in order that they wouldn't have to lend more money on it. And a few years later in 2022, I bought a short lease flat. I bought this for £75,000. The lease was then increased for £30,000, and the end value was supposed to be £50,000 or £60,000 higher. So the end value was supposed to be £130,000. This was sourced for me by a solicitor who was highly experienced in this sort of thing. He even had almost identical flats 1 or 2 streets away, and his were valued at £130,000. But I did this towards the end of 2022, and then when my remortgage valuation came in, it came in at £110,000 instead of £130,000. I met the valuer and showed him around. He was very personable and friendly. Afterwards, I asked him about this, and then he explained that he valued my property in a systematic way. He looked at all the sold property prices, pretty much like for like in the last 6 months, and that my end valuation was completely in line with this. I mentioned the case of a solicitor who'd done the short lease 1 or 2 streets away, and he said that this was completed 8 or more months ago. So this was out of the time frame that he was looking in. I'm not sure if all valuers go back 6 months, but this is what this lender was doing. So at the time, Liz Truss had done the budget, and then it had led to this sort of market. Basically, the market was not healthy and my property was downvalued because of this. The way I would take the base rate news is that it is just one factor. It's no point getting too happy or too sad about this sort of thing, because many other things can happen in society. All you can do is focus on the things that you can control. If you are looking to buy a property, or if you have a remortgage coming up, then just speak to a broker, maybe 2 or 3 brokers, get different opinions and see which deals they have access to. There may be lenders who can get you good deals in times of economic hardship. Even though the base rate was lowered, this doesn't guarantee you'd get a good valuation. The point is to think systematically. You can only do what you can with the time, money and information you have at the time. So then rather than research or wait for the best time to buy property or remortgage, just go to the professionals at the right time, see what deals you can get, whether interest rates are high or low, and just take action rather than wait for interest rates to get even lower or whatever you may expect might happen in the economy. Nothing's guaranteed. Thanks for listening. See you next time.